It is time for your WIN podcast for super busy professionals sharing transformational moments. Your host, Chu Tang.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Your Win podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Tierra, with us. Hey, Tierra, would you mind introducing yourself? Tell us more about, who you are to the audience.
Yeah, thank you so much, June. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to share with you and your audience and to be able to be invited to come onto this podcast with you. I would say that, my background comes from a kind of a long tradition of caregiving and in the caring spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I worked mostly with women and babies during my career as a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I always had a really special affinity for kind of having my feet on the ground and being outside. So I would kind of choose any kind of additional, work that I could find in my life to have that opportunity. So, for a time and for fun, I would often find myself at friends' houses, working in their gardens. Growing a lot of things is always a really important thing for me. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I felt like those worlds really needed to merge,
Mm-hmm.
that health and being connected with nature was something a little bit different than kind of what we were being told, what health
Mm-hmm.
was. I knew that it was much more around the laws of nature than it was around a centralized dogma that, say, healthcare or medicine passed down to us. So that kind of hit a clash for me at some point, right? I was realizing that I was working inside hospitals at odd hours of the day,
Mm-hmm.
being under artificial conditions and environments, lighting,
Mm-hmm.
and really not helping people in the way that I felt like was going to be an amazing transformation for them in terms of their healing process. So I left healthcare in 2021 when a lot of other people did, right? It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
height of COVID. And found myself on a journey that I was gonna need to prepare for carefully, and wanted to really know about the financial choices that I was making in my life that could better my life and my family.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Mm-hmm.
how to teach others to do the same. So I kind of found myself in the space of holistic abundance. And
Oh,
that's
okay.
where I'm playing a lot today is being in that world and not only just helping people to recognize certain aspects and sort of the IQ,
Mm-hmm.
of that
Mm-hmm.
world, but also the EQ, that emotional content.
Oh, okay. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah. So today we're going to talk about pattern breaking. And I know that you have a lot of insights and experience to share with our audience. So take it away.
Hey, well, just, when you brought this topic up to me, of course
Mm-hmm.
it always hits home first, right? It's like, wow, where are the patterns in my life, that like I really felt like I needed to overcome to change my life in a positive way and then affect that for others.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the things that kind of is in alignment with like the nursing space and like
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of see in nurses, they have often a very particular personality or they come from a certain background, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
reason why we're in this like helping profession. And so one of the patterns that was a really challenging pattern for me, Chu, was
Mm-hmm.
I was a full-time mom and a full-time nurse and a full-time wife and a full-time friend and a full-time volunteer at my kids' school and a full-time, like really like spread out in the world. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I started to get this inkling. And this is how I had done things since, I'd say I was in high school, right? Or just growing
Mm-hmm.
up and realizing I wanted to be involved in this and this and this and this, a
Yeah.
lot of engagement. So, but as a mom and as a professional, I started to really deal with a lot of negative emotions around that. And of course, you hear this common resentment was setting in. And, I knew that there was something there that, if I was having these emotions, there was something in my life that I was going to need to change. And I started to recognize this pattern, right? This pattern arose to my awareness. Um, and in my life in particular, I was just about the age where I was starting to enter perimenopause. And I understand this is a common gateway for women in perimenopause. Like there's a lot of transformation that happens. And I really realized that with my energy, it wanted refinement. It wanted refinement towards the places and the spaces that I could be of best use and best enjoyment for my own life. So I started to recognize the daily habits I was having to put energy into all these other things that weren't really serving me anymore. And I knew that I needed to create an interruption, right? A break in those in order to take on this new life. And I'll tell you, it was not clean. It was not neat. It was very messy. So that's something pattern breaking, I don't think always has to be messy. We can go about
Mhm.
it in maybe a slower way or a
Mhm.
very conscientious way. But because I didn't know all the parts and pieces and I was really struggling, it was messy. But I'll tell you, one of the first things that I recognized around
Mhm.
how to reverse was to begin to interrupt that pattern and stop doing the things that I was doing and to actually create more spaciousness
Okay.
to
Okay.
allow a new pattern to develop instead of forcing a new pattern. So it was
Oh.
for me, it was calling it stop. And I'll tell you, so what I did is I just canceled a lot of things. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it felt so
Mhm.
itchy and like sideways and like my whole
Mm.
body viscerally just felt so uncomfortable.
Oh, okay.
I was not in my knowable
Mhm.
space.
Mm.
My whole we talked a little bit about neuroscience, right? And how
Mhm.
these patterns for us are sometimes can be very survivalistic. You get into that
Okay.
groove because our body saves energy knowing what to do next without really thinking about it.
Mm, mm, mm,
And
mhm.
so because I was in this very discomfort area,
Mm.
I knew though that I was breaking the pattern because
Oh.
that's what pattern breaking often has is like this lean into discomfort
Mhm.
to be able to start the new one. So that was the break.
Mm. And how long did it take?
That's a great question because honestly, I don't even know if it's totally complete, right? In the big picture, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
But I think, that messiness, that stage, um, it probably lasted a couple of years to
Mm.
establish the new way of doing things.
Mm. Okay.
Because in allowing that openness, and creating more time for myself to figure out the next pattern and
Mm.
to not dive into something new just to fulfill like more space so I could be back in a comfort zone of like really giving out a lot.
Mhm, mhm.
I would say that, it took me a couple years to have these new areas in place that I could feel like I was like in a new habit where I had created space where it was like, oh, I actually have time to sit down and have a reflection piece where I can write and have a cup of tea, or
Oh.
have time to go for that walk on the beach to be able to
Mhm.
give myself the spaciousness and I could trust myself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the
Mhm.
part is you got to repeat the pattern enough to know
Mhm.
that okay, now I actually really am in this new place.
Oh, wow. That wasn't easy. Oh,
No, it wasn't. And when you talk to a lot of women, I think going through that time in their life,
yeah.
they say the same thing. It's very much like a storm.
It's still wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Hmm. So if you could go back to the time that you were aware of that particular pattern,
Yeah.
would you have done it differently?
Yeah, that's a great question because there were some wounds, like there was some I think there was some hurt that got established in some of my relationships because
Mm.
of the way that I felt so uncomfortable. Well, not uncomfortable because I kind of use that for the pattern breaking. I felt so out of place when I
Mm.
really recognized that the pattern was there that I needed to break.
Mm.
I had to make some kind of harsh boundaries to protect it.
Yeah, boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in doing so, I think I hurt a couple of people. And we've
Mm.
repaired by now. It's not like
Mm.
I
Mm.
left them behind, but in the way of doing it, it would have been nice to have had a guide,
Mm.
like a mentor to hold my hand, like, oh, at this time of your life, this is very common to happen. And so I need you to start thinking about these things and have these special conversations with people. But I didn't have that. I just did it on my own.
So talk about a guy. So now you are like a guide to other people, right? To hold their hands.
Yes.
Yeah, to maybe break some financial pattern.
Correct. Yeah.
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 So would you want to talk about that?
For sure. Yeah. I think that, the interesting thing about financial patterns is they often mirror our life patterns,
Mm.
right? So I'll give you an example. I really, and one of my other hobbies, we talked about hobbies earlier, is the five elements, the Chinese five elements.
Oh, okay.
You and I've talked about this,
Mm-hmm.
but I loved looking at these metaphors for life because they're nature, right? And nature is mirrored in us and we mirror nature. So
Mm-hmm.
when we look at like kinds of people, I'll just forgive, for example, there's like a person that's very fiery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their personality is very passionate and very
Excited.
excited, outwardly oriented, right? They
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
actor, or they're the light of the party or whatever.
Mm.
Often, a person like that actually comes with patterns of the way that they want to direct their money flow too. A lot of times
Mm.
it's like a lot of gift giving. They want to
Ah.
buy like lavish things to share. They're very people oriented. They want to share with a lot of people that have these
Mm-hmm.
experiences and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that, sometimes in terms of working with different people and their different ways that they use and direct money in their lives, it's about that self-awareness.
Mm.
And so it can often be just, paired with its opposite, right? Because in the yin yang, right, we have a little bit of
Mm-hmm. Yin yang. Mm-hmm.
pride. Yeah. And so, for somebody like that, assisting them to be a little bit closer to their water element.
Mm.
That
Okay.
water element like draws internally instead of being so external. And
Okay.
it actually takes time to have that reflection. And water element is often the saver too, because if you think about water, it's like it can be a real metaphor for money.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
flows, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
actually flows down to the lowest point in a collection,
Oh,
in a pool, a
okay.
collection.
Mm-hmm.
So those people tend to be a little bit more, focused on holding and flowing the money to where it needs to be stored until it's ready to be given to the right hands.
Mm.
So that's, discovering the patterns that people have around their money habits has been a really fun thing for me. To be able to show that like even money, which is not just dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Financial is really also about like the abundance of our resources in terms of, having good land to be part of, having good foods, having good people in our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of that actually plays into, I think, that financial space because it's really about how you live, not how
Mm.
much you have to live on.
Mm.
That concept of having enough
Mm-hmm.
is really a personal decision, you know?
Mm. Mm.
So those are some of the areas in terms of recognizing the patterns and then
Mm.
also
So,
being
so,
able to work with them.
so I something that is coming into my thought.
Yeah.
Will you say that people with different dominating element would have more challenges in breaking pattern than the other? Like the more water people versus the more fiery people?
Mm,
What do you think?
yeah. Yeah. They do and so is the question, do they have different challenges?
Like okay, so let's say two people. Okay,
Okay.
one is more on the fire element, and the other one's more on the water element.
Yes.
So do they have different level of challenges when they try to break patterns? Like I would assume that the one that is very fiery
Yes.
would be more stubborn about. I don't know. I'm just asking a question.
Well, oh, no, that's very, very, very true. It's very,
Yeah.
very true. There's not only, personality types, there's also often physical characteristics of these people too. So it's
Oh,
all
okay.
very tied in. So yes, absolutely. Fiery would be, they may very well make a change,
Yeah.
but they may not stick with it.
Oh, okay.
Because the way that their energy runs is because
Yeah.
of the heat and the passion.
Yeah.
Their lines are more like deeply dug in terms of their patterns,
Yeah.
and they may have a harder time making more the permanent change. Whereas like the watery person, they are
Yeah.
so internal and
Yeah.
so into like saving and collecting, they might have a hard time actually parting with their
Oh,
resources because
oh,
their intuition and their life force is around sort of keeping and holding and storing deep down and inside.
yeah. Yeah.
In terms of their pattern change, it might be more difficult for them to actually take the action to do that,
Mhm.
so it's almost opposite, right, of the
I
fire.
think I'm maybe more a water person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're
Oh,
often a combination of, a couple mostly, which is the case,
couple. Yeah.
so, it's just having maybe a little bit more metal, and earth. But yeah, that might be a fun thing for your audience too, is I have a little like a financial, element questionnaire where they can kind of find
Oh,
their habits, and
yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
we could post that.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. That would be awesome. Yeah. So how could they contact you?
My because I've become somebody who's very on the ground and likes to meet people out in the real world. I
Mm-hmm.
do actually keep a fairly active LinkedIn page that
Okay.
is a good space. So
Mm-hmm.
so you can find me on LinkedIn as
Mm-hmm.
Tierra Owen. Um
Yes, yes. I'll post the
that's
link.
and I'm very active on responding to messages there. So that's
Mm-hmm.
space.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, I think that in a public space, that's about the best place to get me.
True, true. Yeah. So do you have any question for me?
I do. I'm very curious about this concept around pattern breaking for you,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, how this came to be such an exciting topic, and how meaningful is this for you in terms of your life?
Yeah, so I do have a few pattern that I'm still trying very hard to break it. So one is every time someone asks me a question, I would always like try to find solution, right? Yeah. And then because of that, I have no boundary in helping people. And then I end up getting, exhausted with trying to solve. Yeah. And then but sometimes when they come to me, they not necessarily want a solution, right? So then I will go out my way to really like try to come up with solution and all that. And then sometimes people don't appreciate it, right? They don't appreciate it. So that is my fault, right? Because I don't have boundary. And so and I noticed this pattern happening in my relationship with my family, with my spouse, with my business, everything. So that is when I realized, oh, this is a pattern I need to break. Yeah. So recently, when people ask me question, I have to like step back and say, okay, first of all, is this a high priority, right? I can't just always stop everything or what I was doing and then go help this particular person, right? Yeah. So I would step back. It's kind of like when I learned CPR, when you go into a situation and I was like, okay, you have to step back,
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure it's safe to go in.
yeah. It's like the word triage. Do you know that
Yeah,
word?
triage.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have to triage the situation. And actually, you know what? I used to work for a software company and we had triage, right? I
Okay,
just
yeah,
never thank you for suggesting that now. The next time when that happened, I have to do a triage.
yeah, yeah. It's perfect.
Yeah, yeah. And somehow in my intuition, I feel like if I break those big patterns that I keep repeating, making the same mistake again, my life would be much smoother.
Mm.
Yeah. So recently I had a what we call spell breaking session with a friend. It's
Yeah.
basically breaking belief that we get stuck in our body too. And then when she did that, I feel my life is so much have more space.
Nice.
And then things tend to move more smoothly.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I could have used that too. That's great. And so you feel like it's going well for you, like your
yeah,
work that you did and being able to break patterns is beginning to.
yeah. Because when I start breaking patterns, then other people's problem won't stick to me, right? Because I mean I tend to carry other people's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after that session, now when I see problem, I say, okay, that's not mine, that's theirs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Beautiful. So one more thing I want to say about patterns, and
yeah,
hopefully this applies to you too, is that
yeah.
I think the final step in terms of recognizing that you have shifted a pattern, because that's really starting to work in that direction, is celebrating the pattern.
Oh,
Because when we celebrate the pattern change, we reinforce in ourselves,
oh,
deepen those neurological connections to keep that pattern reinforced. So I think it's a really good thing, just in terms of like patting our backs, right? Do something
oh,
beautiful for ourselves, that we're really celebrating that change and helping
okay.
us to really integrate that change into ongoing change.
So would you take the trip to celebrate?
Well, you have to decide the size of the celebration.
This is nice.
Sometimes it's just like buying a new wallet for yourself or whatever it
Oh,
might be, like,
okay, cool.
maybe the size of the change is the size of the celebration, right?
Okay, okay, okay. Wow, this has been a really, really good conversation. Yeah, so yeah. Thank you so
Great.
much. Yeah.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share. See you soon at Your Win Podcast.
I feel
So,
alive.
so Tira, what's your favorite hobby? And while we're waiting for people to join us.
Great. Yeah, it'll be nice to have some joiners. So, I absolutely love being outdoors.
Mm.
And I love exploring spaces, especially natural spaces I've never been before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's something that just brings me to my childlike self. I don't know, Chu, if there's like some things that you do where you feel like you're 8 years old again, and it's a feeling
Mm.
of freedom that just makes you just feel like so alive and so excited and like in awe of life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what natural space have you been to lately?
Well, this week I actually got to go with a friend of mine to a space in Central California called Arroyo Seco. And it's a river gorge that's carved out deep in limestone. This is the backside of the Big Sur Mountains, if you're familiar.
Oh, I love Big Sur.
Oh, well, me too. It's so wild and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the eastern side of this mountain. So you can see these mountains if you're driving south or north on Highway 101 through like the Salinas River Valley area.
Okay.
And this is a very unique hike. For me, I had never done a hike quite like this before, but
Uh-huh.
being in the fall and being on a weekday, there was absolutely no one there. So you
Mm-hmm.
take a hike of about 2.5 miles on a fire road, and then you climb down into this river gorge, and
Oh,
you're walking along the river gorge until you can't walk anymore.
oh my
So you
God.
have to get in the water to like get through places.
Oh, so do you have to wear a particular type of boots to cross?
I actually did a sneaky thing where, well, it wasn't that sneaky, but I wore hiking boots in and I just tucked them inside of a like just behind a tree, and
Mm.
then I had water shoes on because it's very rocky. Like without
Oh,
stepping on your feet, it would be
very
hard.
slippery. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And slippery, right? Mossy, right?
Yeah, yep, yep.
but some of the spaces that I went, it's like it was just this beautiful, clear, slow moving water. So going
Oh,
upstream was not difficult.
yeah.
I had a backpack on that had a dry bag in it, so one of the
Uh-huh.
bags, so it kept everything waterproof, but it also acted like a little buoy for me, like almost
Oh, okay. Okay.
kept me more afloat.
Yeah.
So it was like swimming and crawling and
Wow.
hiking, and there were like these little beautiful beaches, and it was
Mm-hmm.
warm. It was about 80 degrees, so not too hot.
Mm-hmm.
And the water was delightful.
Wow. Wow.
And just did the reverse going out, which was even nicer because it was downstream, right? So a little bit more like letting the current take you.
Oh, you
Yeah, yeah, but it was just a perfect amount of water, like very like pool like, you know.
wow, wow. And
Well,
you probably a very good swimmer.
I'm a good swimmer, but you didn't really need to be a good swimmer.
Oh, I can't swim.
Okay, well, you do need to probably swim. Yeah, that would
Yeah.
help.
And how far is it from Santa Cruz?
Um, so in miles, I think it's not as far maybe like around 80 miles.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But just a really fun, I felt just so, when you say hobby, like I felt like I just was really blessed to be able to visit a place on Earth that like I had been there before, but not deep into this gorge.
Oh,
And to just to be able to see like Mother Nature's beauty and the
yes, yes, yes.
diversity of it, and
Mm,
to be able to be in sunshine and to see, wild
mm,
animals,
mm.
and it lights me up every time in terms of just feeling so
Yeah.
connected to life, and being able, like I said, like all that playing and crawling and swimming, I just feel like
Wow.
such a child, really, literally.
Yeah, so when I used to live in New Zealand and people say, "Oh my God, New Zealand is so beautiful." And my husband say, we could see all those here in this country."
Oh,
Yeah, and now that you describe this place, I need to go check it out because I feel really bad for living in California all these years. Never heard of that place.
yeah. Yeah, I would love to share more with you about it if you want to
Yeah,
know more
cool.
details.
Well, if you have pictures later on, maybe you could post it on the comment.
Oh, sure. That's a
Yeah.
great idea.